we have transported into the freaking tundra. We're no longer in Ohio. We're way up freaking north in Greenland. And I know that's kind of the only reason I say that is because everybody knows Greenland is icy, and Greenland is icy, and Iceland is actually a little bit more green and lush. But this is nice. This is very, I feel like I'm on Hoth right now. I'm about to get caught in whatever that creature's cave is with my feet frozen to the ceiling, hanging down, getting a message from Ronnie Coleman to tell me to use the Force or something. For anybody who appreciates that reference. But plan for today with hamstrings is going to be, what is it going to be? There we go. Yeah, just a hamstring pump. Really nothing too crazy. And if I overdo it, I'm going to pay for it. Like I overdid it on quads last quad day, like 4 days ago. And I didn't even feel like I did that much. All I did was like 6-plate leg press. So maybe you could look at that and think, well, because I've been taking my quad training easier, I'm setting myself up to be more sensitive to it. But the way that I'm looking at it is more so my recovery system of the amount of food that I'm eating. Sleep is good, my hydration's good, but really just that amount of food is not really primed for insane, like destructive limp out of the gym training. And it's just not the goal, you know? Like I'm getting a couple comments now where it's basically like, Sam, you did the same weight every set. What happened to progressive overload? And to that I would say, well, progressive overload isn't about doing every set heavier than the last one in the workout. It's about getting stronger and doing more weight over time. But that's just not the goal right now. That's not the point. That's not the heat signature I'm really kind of targeting. I just need to hold on to as much muscle as possible that I've built up over time whilst losing that outer layer of body fat slowly and steadily. So if that means, no 4-plate stiff leg RDLs, if that means no 6-plate Smith squats, that's okay. And if anything, I think it's a good back and forth for me to have this longer dieting phase be a little bit more light, squeezing, controlled with the weight, because I think all my joints are getting a good couple of months break. Like if you do it too hard, eventually something's going to give. So I think spending this time not having 500 plus pounds on my back every week, or however many 100 pounds going through my rotator cuffs on a bench, I think it's probably good. It's good to kind of turn it on and then turn it off and kind of come down a little bit. So I'm sure next off season I'm going to feel not only stronger, hungrier, but also probably just better, because I've had a couple months to kind of chill out on the internal just pressures and stresses of everything, which isn't normally what I'm talking about. Normally I'm going to be the guy to say you got to bring it all year round, whatever. But in reality, I think that's actually a pretty good situation of the dieting for me. So that's just one more positive, because it's to have my back and forth of a little more off season, get a little bit heavier, get a little bit softer, and then have a more serious dieting phase. Some guys are going to look at that and think, well, what if I could main gain and make similar progress to a proper off season and then a dieting phase, body recomp situation afterward? What if I just main gained that whole time and maybe I made similar results? To that I'd say, especially as a beginner, you're probably right. I main gained, I never did a bulk for the first 4 years that I worked out. I just eat my protein, ate as much food as I was hungry for, and trained. That was basically the gist of it. I got better at training, but I wasn't really trying to scarf down food like a maniac or anything. But part of the reason why that worked for me is because my appetite was decent. Some guys who have a really bad appetite, even though relatively to maybe normal standards, they're not eating that much food on a bulk. For them, it's really going to feel like they have to eat a lot of food to put, to actually get enough calories in to make any progress at all, even what we'd call main gaining progress. So it's a very nuanced topic, when we talk about main gaining and bulking or cutting, because just the difference in people's base appetites and essentially just how hungry they are and how much food they're going to eat, it really plays a huge role. And I think it's just not referenced enough. Somebody who has no problem literally destroying an entire Thanksgiving dinner every day, like, heavier linebacker style guy. Well, for him, he's not going to say you need to do a bulk to grow. He's eating enough food already as it is, just normal. He's going to put on size like nothing, at least for a good period if he matches that food with hard training. Whereas the guy who has a really low appetite, I'm talking to dudes who just walk around peeled, just not even like super big, but they're just always lean because they don't have a huge appetite to always eat all the time. Well, they're going to say, like, dude, why are you dieting so hard? I mean, you don't have to worry about it. Just eat what you want. That works for me. So we've got this confirmation bias of whatever works for us as an individual, we set as the standard for everyone else, because it's like, well, it worked for me. How is it not the same for you? Which is a pretty justifiable thought process, but it's just a little deeper than that, so you got to not only put yourself in somebody else's shoes, you got to kind of imagine what their whole system is like to be able to say something like that. But for me to go, all right, this is a few month period, I'm going to eat a lot of food, I'm going to gain some size, I'm going to gain some strength, I'm going to really leverage my training, and then a few months of dieting, backing off, lighter training, peeling that extra layer of body fat off, for me it works pretty well. And I like the back and forth of it. Like physically, gains wise, it works, and just mentally I get a good mix of everything. I get a half the year basically big and strong, feeling like a freak, and then the other half leaner, crazier looking, and then feeling like a freak, just in a different way, so it's a good mix of both worlds for me. But I think nothing else to talk about. Let's just get in there and get started. Really not going to be the most insane lift. I might just overlay. Yeah. How about this? I'm going to overlay some QNA questions over the hamstring training, just because it's. I mean, at least sometimes with chest, that like doing a crazy set of flies or like cable press actually looks kind of cool. The hamstring curls are pretty basic. All you got to do is sit there and try to burn them out. So how about we cut to the training and then run through a couple of burning questions. I'll go back in the last Q&A and pick a couple that I haven't answered yet. Is this thing working? Yeah, we're good. All right, just a couple of questions because this isn't going to be very long. But number one, John Cena-UD5BJ. This is actually a good question. In a world without sugar-free condiments, how would you counteract that? Love you, by the way, Sam. You know what? Thank you, John Cena. How would I deal with that? Well, I'd end up leaning a little bit more towards, there never would be sugar-free condiments, or there never wouldn't be sugar-free condiments, because there are already sugar-free condiments. You know what I'm saying? What he's really saying is, in a world without sugar-free versions. So barbecue sauce, kind of off the table. That's really the main one, or like a teriyaki sauce. So I just end up leaning a little simpler. Tons of mustard, tons of mustard, tons of Red Hot, tons of Tabasco. Those would be my three go-to. And one thing that gets a little bit of hate with the mustard is just when you use it on stuff that isn't conventionally mustardable. Egg whites with mustard, love it. Canned turkey or canned chicken with mustard, regular like blocks of Costco turkey with mustard, ground beef with mustard. It's all of these proteins, even like tilapia. I would do tilapia with mustard. And sure, it's not like Gordon Ramsay level, but all these proteins, especially if they're like strained and unseasoned, they're really not that flavorful. Egg whites especially. Egg whites are this blank canvas. There is no like specific flavor of like an egg white, especially if you use like barely any oil at all. Like it tastes like nothing. So just to throw on whatever sauce you want, that's totally fine. So those would be my big three. I mean, really, I guess my big two, just hot sauce and mustard, would be my go-to condiments of choice. Da Vinci FPV, during your life, when did you find out solitude and progress was the key to happiness for you? And does that simple life reward you the way that you had hoped? Thanks for being you. Flexing emoji. Hell yeah. I don't know if I'd say it's the secret to, or the key to happiness, but it definitely doesn't hurt. I'm a little more of I don't want to say introverted, because especially from these last few years of all the expos and videos and putting myself out there and talking, like, I used to be much more introverted, like a little, just not nervous, but just maybe a little quieter. And whereas now, not so much more just open, talking, very clear voice, confident, like that. So it's not exactly like that I feel introverted, but I definitely do get a bit of satisfaction, what you'd call protecting your peace. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people, I think their days look like this. They're either spending their time doing something they really don't like and kind of stewing about it, and then to make up for that time where they're basically in the red in terms of their happiness level, they want to do something that makes them really happy and excited. They're always like chasing this up and down, which some people like that. Some people are kind of high energy, like they always want to be chasing something, like, just, okay, let's go to this, and let's go to have this dinner, and let's go out to this club, and let's go out to whatever. And like that's what they like, that's their routine, which for them, if that's what they like, that's fine, whatever. But for me, that's not, I don't know, that's just not how I like it, because it doesn't balance out. Just because you have X amount of time having fun and X amount of time like really not having fun at all, just because it maybe evens out, I just don't like that fluctuation. I want to be just steadily in the green. So if that means having a little more of a basic routine, not having a ton of plans all the time, it just kind of works for me, And I've got stuff that I want to do which kind of requires a lot of attention and consistency. So if my day reflects that, well, then I get to do well at the thing that I really value right now. And it just kind of feeds into itself in this positive feedback loop. I wouldn't say it's the secret to success and happiness, or the secret to just the key to happiness. But if you have something you want to put a lot of energy into, then having your schedule sort of wrap around that will help, because then you can spend more energy on it, or put more energy into it, be more efficient and more just like, effective at it. And then you just get better at it and you have fun doing it. So that's kind of my thing. It's more of like it's like, instead of trying to do stock options and you're chasing these up and downs, you're just doing gradual, like, park this shit in a S&P, don't even think about it, boom. And over time, it has no choice but to grow. If you, I kind of like that investment analogy. Dudu OLV 58, what's the hardest part during a bulk and how to stay motivated? So for me, the hardest part of a bulk is that last 30% of it. If I'm doing a bulk for 6 months, the first 4 months it's actually all fun and games. Like, I'm eating my food, I'm getting big, I'm training like a freak. Shit's fun. I'm hungry still, so I don't have trouble eating. Like, that first 2/3 is sick. That last third, where I start to really feel like, okay, man, it's getting hard to eat this much food, that's when I really kind of start putting in extra effort, because my appetite is kind of not matching my goal of food intake. So I've got to really crunch and like slam some extra meals harder than I would normally think. And in terms of how to stay motivated, I got my eye on the prize, man. I know I want to get bigger, and I know I want to see the scale increase and my size and strength increase. So as long as I'm focused on that and I chase that, it helps me think, all right, well, shit, I'm not really that hungry, but let's slam this meal. For most, I think one of the hardest part is going to be the fact that you're going to get softer. You're not going to be so cut up, which I think is good for me. I've got a good aptitude for at least a little bit of like handling body dysmorphic thoughts, because right now I'm peeled, and in the next month-ish, I'm going to get even more peeled and crazy looking. But that never really turns me off from going back to a bulk and putting on some more body fat, just because I know the benefits of doing that and I like it. So it's just a good back and forth, right? So just think about you in the future. You would have rather done and really stuck to a bulk and then cut down and gain the size from it, rather than just say, I don't know if I really want to bulk, and then you get nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Veniti XI, favorite way to cook a ground beef at the moment. So I have a routine, I have a method. And actually, I think it would be better, this would be better. I think what would be really good is to cook a beef in the oven over top of like a tray with a strainer, so all the fat would just drip off and you're left with like totally strained beef. That would probably be the best method. But what I do now is just, 5 pounds of ground beef in a big like soup pot, low temperature or medium temperature. Just let it simmer. Stir until, brown throughout. And while it's hot, you got to be, it's a very tricky thing, but you got to put the lid over top of the whole thing, give it just a little opening at the lip, flip it over, and then strain it into a bowl for you to, trash later. And just kind of give it a couple shakes, and then now you've got all your ground beef strained. But if you ever drop it in the sink or something, you're totally screwed, and you can probably scoop some of it back in. I guess it would depend on how comfortable you are with how clean your sink is. But that's usually my method, just basic. I guess the real trick is just doing a ton at once so you don't have to cook it all the time. Dawson Mathis 2571, if you were to go back in time with all the knowledge you have now, what year would I go to? Is this like I go back in time to a younger version of myself? Or I go back in time, or like this is an alternate universe where I was born and now I'm the same 23-year-old Sam, except it's a different year. Let's assume it's like that. But I have all my current knowledge. I'm going to go back to whenever Bitcoin first dropped and just start accruing as much Bitcoin as possible. I think that's the only answer to that question, that's for sure. You just have to wait and stick it out for you to get the benefits later. Logan Patterson 8079, when I do single arm pullovers, I only feel it in my arms. Any advice? So there's a second question, but we'll get to that afterward. So with that, I would say, as you're doing a single arm pullover, if you have your arm faced in such a way that your elbow is pointed down and your wrist is also like in line with the cable, basically making you flex your tricep to pull the weight down, that's going to make you feel more of your arms. So what I would say is try to turn your arm sideways. So like imagine you're reaching out in front of you and you're holding on to, I don't know, just like somehow there's just a pole in front of you, right? Turn your elbow out so that your arm is bending horizontally rather than vertically. Because then when you pull down, your arm doesn't bend this way, it only bends this way. You won't get so much arm activation and you'll feel more in your back, and you won't have to think about all this burning going on in your triceps and your forearms. And then in terms of any advice on how to grow your lower back, I'd say just deadlifts. But really, I would probably say just do some really, make sure your form is good, but just start overloading heavy bent over rows. Because I would much rather push bent over rows than deadlifts, because you're getting your full back and you're still getting a good chunk of lower back activation without, wrenching yourself by going too heavy on a deadlift. And then last one from Joel McNeely 4747, thoughts on new Clash heroes? They're fine. I don't know. It seems redundant. Like, why is that? Don't we already have evolutions? Like, why am I looking at a golden P.E.K.K.A? Like, can we just stick with one evolution? Like, this is the same problem that I have with the Pokemon games. I was a hardcore Gen 4 guy, Platinum, Diamond. Platinum, Diamond. I played Black and White too. Actually just Black when I was younger. But yeah, sometimes things don't need to be overcomplicated. Like, keep it simple, add in a few extra features, but don't go too crazy. So it's fine. It's not my favorite thing in the world, though. But let's pose down. There we go. All right, little question pause just to see how hamstrings are looking. And you know what? I think I might start doing shoes off in here. Obviously, I don't want to drop like a plate on my foot or something, but I'm wearing the Converse. It's not like they're steel toe. If I drop 45 plates or a 45-pound plate on my foot with the rubber shoes on, it's really not going to change much. I don't know. I'll see. Whatever. That's not really a consequential thing to think about. But let's see how legs are looking. So, yeah. What really gets me going is the fact that I know my legs are flat right now. This is not full-on carbed up Sam quads. These are low. These are low on glycogen. But even so, I mean, look at that. This outer quad, which is kind of funky. For me, this right outer quad is much thicker Like it's got a little extra oomph on this outside part. This one almost inserts a little bit smaller, but the smaller one is the one that has all of the really fancy grain and feathering. And this is unpumped on anything. Obviously, hamstrings have some extra blood flow in them, but not like an insane amount. But even the right one has got a good chunk of, it's just a little bit of a different texture. But the right side's got that feathering too. Very freaking nice. So when I know I'm really going to be peeled is when I start seeing these lines on the teardrop of my quad. They're in there, but there's a bit more fat covering this section than up here. Like this is much thinner, so it would make sense that it's not so visible. But even just hitting like a little kind of side shot, I mean, that's a pretty substantial separation of ham to quad to this little 10 in the center. Even, whoa, what is that? What is that? Is that a glute striation? Just a little bit? Let me try that one more time. Almost. There's still, I mean, this chunk of pinchable skin down here where my glute inserts, thicker than right here. This is probably the thinnest part of my quad, which would make sense that it's like the freakiest looking. But no, man, that's a good sign for me. So yeah, overall, feeling pretty chunky in the leg department. A little bit of grain. Maybe not as, I don't know, I can't like see myself from the back as well. But yeah, I mean, I am not upset at all, that's for sure. So I told myself I was going to mop today. I'll do that freaking tomorrow. So I'm going to go home, get on the bike. So let's jump straight in the car, man. Hamstring's done. All right, that was pretty good. That was a solid lift if I've ever freaking had one. Not too crazy, but good chunk of burning. I could tell in that one set of laying leg curls, the first one, I definitely did go a little bit too heavy. And how I can tell is I get this feeling where I'm like, tension in my hamstring, but a little bit of an uncomfortable tension. Like I know, ooh, that's in the danger zone. If I went too much heavier or did those reps too much quicker, that could be asking for trouble. So I'm glad I called it a little bit before then, went a little bit lighter, and then just focus on a good squeeze and burn. Those single leg seated curls too, going alternating left and right, those I like as well. And it's a different kind of set when you do rest pause like that. I guess you could do both at once and just do like 5 reps and then wait, and then do another 5 reps and then wait. I kind of like that sort of synergistic, like left, right, because then at the top of every rep, you can kind of like help yourself get the other one started, so you don't have to do a dead stop to kind of get it moving. But it is just a little bit different because now you're getting this like, okay, fatigue, a little bit of rest and recovery, fatigue, a little bit of recovery. So instead of just a straight climb of like damage throughout the set, it actually kind of like progresses in just like a little bit of a different pattern, you know. So I think that's a good extra differentiator. Like if you're thinking like, okay, how can I change my training up a little bit? Do some of those. And you can do it with anything, you know. You can do it with triceps, you could do it with leg extensions, you can do it with curls, with pull downs or rows, like just 5 reps on one side, 5 on the other, back and forth, and then before you know it, boom, man, you're good. And I do like single-sided stuff, not only for the sake of like it's different, but also you can kind of focus a little bit more on really getting a good contraction in that one side, because now you got basically double brain power thinking about it. Instead of splitting your mind between both hamstrings at once, you're only thinking and feeling one at a time, which you might not think is that crazy. And honestly, it's really not. But, you know, take it to an extreme. If I were to get on a machine that could somehow be like a curl, chest press, leg extension, and then like hip thrust all at once in like one cohesive motion, I think if you were to somehow like put electrodes on my biceps and on my chest and on my hamstrings and then on my glutes, and I tried to fire as hard as I could on this weird conglomerate machine, I think the muscle by muscle activation and like intensity of like signals to flex and contract would be less so than if I were just doing one curl or one pec fly at a time. So sure, doing like a both side what's the word, bilateral movement, you know, both curls at once, both leg extensions at once, a regular press, both arms at once, it's not that complicated for your brain to wrap around. But you know, I think more so just the fact it's a little bit different if you throw in that left to right kind of approach. And it's a little rest pause-ish because you're doing one side, the other side rests, one side, the other side rests. It's worth trying, that's for sure. Definitely worth a freaking try. But plan now, go home, get on the bike. I think I'm gonna edit this video together first and then start pedaling, because my computer takes a while to render these videos, because I upgraded the camera setup, so now it's recording in 8K instead of 4K, and I've got a heater in my basement, and if I have the heater running and the computer rendering the video at once, it pops the breaker in the basement. Like, this thing is sucking power to render this thing together. So it usually it's like I sit, okay, render, come back in an hour, come back in like 45 minutes. But it's not so bad that I think it'd be worth doing a computer upgrade. So it's all right, just part of the routine. So I'll get that together, get my cardio done, get ready for a post-workout meal, presumably of some cubed steaks, or maybe just some straight canned chicken. That has not been failing me either. And then just get ready for cardio session number 2 later tonight. So in the meantime, play with the cats, watch my phone a little bit, scroll eBay and see if there's any really cheap camera deals. They're elusive, but sometimes they do happen. I saw a really fancy camera get sold for like 1/3 normal selling price. I tried to put a bid on it, but the bid was going to end, or the eBay bid was going to end at 4 in the morning. So I just had to go to sleep. I'm like, I'm not going to stay up for this thing. And somebody got it for like an insane deal, which was freaking nuts. But yeah, 38 days out, I think. I'm feeling good. I am feeling freaking good, that's for sure. So I want to keep up that momentum, and then I'm getting excited for a chest day tomorrow. Hamstrings is a little more chill. Like, today is not a rest day, but honestly it kind of feels like it, because a hamstring pump for me is not so demanding as anything else that I'm normally hitting. But yeah, man, I think that's all I got for today. So I'll see you tomorrow.